The Pursuit of Happiness, Harry Szmerling.
Contest chair, friends, please do this for me. Raise your right hand, those of you who are happy. Come on, happy people, arms up. Look at this. What a happy district we have. Thank you. I bet if I asked each and every one of you what it means to be happy, I'd get a variety of different answers. You know, when I was growing up, I thought I knew what happiness was. And it always revolved around some far-off event about which I would receive something. The scariest time for me was exam times. And I used to think, if I pass my exams, then I'll be happy. And you know what? I always passed. And I had this great feeling of ecstasy. And then some teacher would contact me and say, Szmerling, no one had a first name in those days. Szmerling, you think you're pretty good, don't you? You pass your exams. Well, big deal. Guess what? Next year, the work's going to be twice as hard as it was this year. And my feeling of ecstasy evaporated, like the water, like the mist coming off a river on a warm summer day. Now, I feel I have to share something with you. It's a bit private. It's personal, but if you can't trust other Toastmasters, who can you trust, right? I am a Collingwood supporter. Yes, I know. And for many years, I had to endure tears, frustration and heartache as I watched my beloved Magpies find new and creative ways of losing grand finals in excruciating circumstances. People made fun of Collingwood. It was very disrespectful. They used to say, when Nelson Mandela finally gets out of prison, first question he'll ask will be, did Collingwood finally win a premiership? And I used to think, if by some miracle my beloved Magpies ever win a premiership, then I'll be deliriously happy. Well, the miracle happened. They won a premiership after 32 years of excruciating pain. And I was deliriously relieved. It was actually an anticlimax. Now, don't get me wrong, relief is not a bad emotion. It's right up there. But it's not much when compared with fulfillment or joy. I think that many of us are obsessed with pursuing happiness. So much so that it's even enshrined in the United States Declaration of Independence, which boldly declares that we're all entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we're taught to pursue happiness from a very young age. Do you remember those fairy stories that we used to hear long ago? How did most of them finish? And they lived happily ever after. Now, I don't know too many people who live happily, and certainly not forever after. Hollywood perpetuates the same myth. What's the most common genre of movie nowadays? The so-called feel-good movie, the romantic comedy. And what's the plot? Man meets woman. They fall in love. Oh, it's beautiful. Then something goes wrong, they split up, and we feel tension, we feel uncomfortable. But usually by the end of the film, they're back together again, no doubt living happily ever after. But don't some of us sometimes go home and think, why isn't my life like that? In my case, happiness continued to elude me. Perhaps because, like many people, I believe, I was confusing happiness with pleasure. They are not interchangeable. Now, pleasure is anything that'll make us feel good. We can create pleasure by pressing our own pleasure buttons. We all have pleasure buttons. They just happen to vary. Consider, for example, the case of a packet of Tim Tam biscuits. There it sits on the supermarket shelf, minding its own business. Quite innocuous, really. But to me, it represents 12 slices of heaven filled with chocolate. Now, that's instant pleasure for me. But you know what they say? Once on the lips, forever on the hips. Pleasure is always temporary. So, with apologies to Nick Castellan, I'm going to say a couple of things about happiness. Because you see, pleasure is about receiving. Happiness is not about receiving. It's about giving. It's about making an impact. It's about making a difference to people. It's about contributing. It's about how we live our lives and what we achieve. Many of us spend our lives busy, pursuing happiness, looking for it, chasing it, but like chasing a butterfly. You try for it, you grab for it, you never quite get there, although sometimes you might, and then you find that you've crushed and destroyed the very thing that you wanted. But if you just take a step back, think about what you have that's really important to you. Think about what you've achieved and what you can achieve. Think about the blessings of your friends and family. And above all, make a contribution. Then perhaps, and unexpectedly, that butterfly of happiness just might come and nestle softly on your shoulder. Contest chair.
Thank you, Howard.